So, please welcome on stage Olivier Künzi and Martin Künzi.
Branding has evolved, and I think everybody of you has understood that branding is not the same anymore than in the 20th century. So we are in the 21st century, and things have changed. We have different kinds of brands. We found out that brands doesn't define themselves anymore alone. Many brands are in a context. Most of the brands have clients, hopefully, and usually what we are used to from the 20th century, that brands could really create their brand themselves. They created the logo, they created colors, and they just pushed it out. Today, with the possibility of social networks and an interaction, brands are much more defined by their users, by their clients. And so things have changed. And we'd like to share a bit about this.
So there are many types of brand. Let's start by the corporate brand. And Martin, I think you love them and you know a lot about them. Can you please tell us a bit about them?
You love them? I'm not sure if this was really the point that you wanted to mention.
No.
Actually, I know about corporate brands. I worked for 7 years by Swiss Post, so I know how a big corporate company works. And I learned to summarize corporate brands, how they behave in one sentence. You want to know it? It's about policies. So that's corporate brands. And we brought you 3 different corporate brands. First, it's Petronas, the Malaysian petrol company. They were founded in 1974. And in 1998, they built the Petronas Towers. So they set a mark. They wanted to be seen all over the world. And so this is the behavior of we are the best. Corporate brand Petronas. Another one, Nestlé. So Nestlé is a Swiss brand, and Olivier can tell us a bit what Nestlé is all about.
Yeah, it's about guidelines. It's, we've been working for Nestlé, and we work still sometimes for Nestlé, and it's really, you have guidelines of how you can use the brand and the design that are that big. I don't know if anyone knows them by heart or know them at all, but it's very interesting.
And then we looked at Deutsche Bank, because we're in Germany today, and if you just go on their About Us page, on their website, you can read, wir wollen die führende, kundenorientierte, globale Universalbank sein. Wow! I thought the man or the woman who wrote this sentence already succeeded by writing it, by really fulfilling this vision, because no one else does the same. So, Deutsche Bank talks not on eye level, they talk a corporate language. And so you can see corporate brands, this is the way they behave.
And then there's the love brand. And the love brand, I've brought you a few, and there's one I'm really interested. It's in the book about the love brand, you know, the love mark. It's Twinnings. Who of you love? So it's kind of a strong emotion. Twinnings, like you really love it. Okay, so that was the way you build brand in the 20th century. The way you build that is the more money you have, the more voice you will take. If I can be everywhere, I will be everywhere. Basically, the only limitation to my monologue as a brand will be my budget. And, well, that worked. The advantages of the love mark is basically, if you have the bigger budget, you will win. But in the 21st century, things have changed. And we see something new coming up. We see in the horizon a new type of brand emerging. And we would like to present you some of those new brands.
If you just look at them, we have Uber as first one. So Uber disrupted the way of mobility. We have Dollar Shave Club, and Dollar Shave Club brought war to the playground of Gillette. And we have Airbnb, so they are not really love brands for the hotel industry.
And what is interesting is that's on the product level. But if we go in the branding level, they do things very differently. Uber has a non-traditional branding. Every time you log on it, there's a different pattern, a different color. The Dollar Shave Club has a non-traditional advertising system. Basically, you will find more content, user-generated content about Dollar Shave Club than you will find about Gillette. And Airbnb has a very non-traditional way of doing storytelling. And we call that kind of brand, those very different brand, the superhero brand. And the superhero brand, we show you big ones, but we're going to show you example of small brands that can use the superhero way to create a brand. So far, we identified 9 traits. The way we did it is we created a tool called the Full Potential. It's a quality analysis tool of branding, and we run it onto 250 companies. We did it 2 years in a row, and we discovered that some brand was performing much better than others. So we start to analyze what are the common points of them, and so far we have identified 9 traits, and today with you we will present you 4 of them. And I will talk to you about the symbol and the personal cause.
And I would like to share some thoughts about how brands wear a mask, can wear a mask, and the last one, brands should act, not talk.
So, for this symbol, the traditional way you build a brand when a company wants to start his brand is to really say, I want a logo, a font, a message. And the way it will happen usually is you have a lot of time creating it, and then when it's done, it's put in marble, and it doesn't move, and it becomes cold. And it's something that you then repeat. And there is another way to build brands. And look at Batman. I'm a big fan of Batman. Every time there is a new movie, there's a new logo. And the logo tells us a story. And this is a fascinating story, actually. When Batman Rise deployed the logo, I was like, oh, there's going to be a hardcore one. It's going to be tough. And you can do that in branding. Let me show you how you can do that. For example, there is a bank that's called Atom Bank. The way they do it is every time you log on the bank, they have a different logo. The logo is always changing, and when you create your account, the bank becomes your bank. So it's Victoria's Bank and Duncan's Bank, and that's really cool. And basically, you have a sort of a living brand, something that is evolving, that is transforming itself. And it's really, really lovely. Another example is Airbnb. They let you play with the logo. It's not something fixed. You can redesign it, you can make it different, you can adapt it. And every time you log on it, you will see a different video, and this video will be connected to where you are, where you want to go, or it will be something that is much more connected to your life. Basically, it will be much more human. It will be much more like a human, so you will interact better with it. And so what we take for that is, as long as the meaning is untouched, and you can modify the way you present your brand, and you can adapt to the context and evolve with it, and you don't have to look always exactly the same. And so, Martin, let's talk about the mask.
Yes, let's come to the mask. Actually, a mask. Probably this will be quite familiar, this mask. Everybody knows it. It's a mask that has become very popular in the way we have seen the internet evolving. It's a mask that is used to protest, to show something, to show a force, to show a power. But behind the mask, there is always something human. And so I have brought you a very well example that really shows something where we have a brand that has taken off its mask, and we have a brand that wears the mask. So this is the example. It's the Pope, who just wished all athletes from the Olympic Games that they will enjoy the Games and really spread something across the world. But then the official brand of Rio 2016, what they told the Pope, Pontifex, please refrain from using Rio 2016 protected terms. So I told you, it's about policies. As a global brand, you are in violation of official Olympic guidelines. So this is the example of a superhero brand at the top, the Pope, and of a corporate brand.
It's a real one.
It's a real
one. When I saw it first, I was like, this is not real. This is false. No, it's a real one.
So we have other examples. Examples from brands, bigger brands, smaller brands. A brand that we have brought with us is the Les Chaussettes Rouges. Actually, if you just looked at this website, you have the feeling of it's a global e-commerce brand because they ship all over the world, they're socks. But if you go deeper into detail, you will find that it's a really small boutique in Paris, 1.3 kilometers from the Eiffel Tower, and they sell socks for passers-by, and they do also e-commerce globally. So it's something different. So they put their mask to pretend being a global brand, take it away when you pass by. And so it makes it very, very human, and we can see it. If you order socks there, they send you a personal handwritten letter that goes with it. And so it's really something different. It's really a personal connection that you can build. And to be human, I think it's good if you see what it actually means to become human and how you can do something in a way that human is. So we look at the video that this brand has made. You can see it on their website, and it's a good example of how can you be human and really connect to your audience. So hopefully it works. So they really take you into this mood of being likable, being close to people, and not a global corporate brand, but they still sell online as an e-commerce business. So we have another example. It's Southwest Airlines. As you can imagine, an American airline is about rules and regulations. Southwest, they tried to get to become have a human approach. And what they did, they created a community because they believe behind every seat there is a story. And on their community site from Southwest, you can read stories about, for example, like this boy, a 4-year-old boy who had cancer. This boy was on a flight with Southwest, and on this flight, he really was the likable person. He was the star of the flight. He connected to travelers. He interacted with the staff. And so this story is shared on this community and created as many likes as you would like to have as a brand. So this is something that makes this brand really human and not a corporate brand. Beside all the rules and regulation, you can be human as well. So this is about the mask. And when you see what is in there, superheroes use the mask to unleash their superpower. They don't need to use it all the time, so they only put it when they need it. And at last, they have a broad range of emotions. They know how their clients react to them. Olivier tells about the personal cause.
So the personal cause is something very important. Usually, the way you build the brand the classic way is you think about values, and you define a certain number of values. We come from Switzerland. 80% of companies has respect as main values. That's how differentiate it works. It's like you cannot differentiate with your value. The personal cause is something different. Usually it's based on where you come from and where your story is about. So let's take this quote for Captain America. Why is someone weak? Because a weak man knows the value of strength, the value of power. Captain America, before he gets a superpower, he's very weak and he gets bullied by everyone. And so when he get his superpower and get very strong, he say, I will always defend people who get bullied. And that's how the cause is defined. It's defined by a story, and the cause is something that then you transform into actions. It's to have value and to put them on your front door is a bit like having a pretty girl coming and sitting next to you and say, hello, I'm a pretty girl. It's like weird. Either she is, she doesn't have to. It's like normally you see it, you find it. Captain America doesn't go around saying to people, I will protect the weak. He does it, and that's it. And let's take the example of Basecamp. I'm very happy because I think it's the first time I can present Basecamp without having to explain what it is, because I'm sure that in this audience, everyone knows what Basecamp is. So at the start, the goal of the company was not to create a software to manage projects. They were doing something completely different, and they created this to help them, and this become their cause, their mission. And they wanted to have something that helped them to manage projects in a very respectful way. So they wanted something that doesn't send notification outside of work hour. Like this, you can be a distributed team over different places and still respect people's sleep or people's private moment. And so that's something they kept all along. Same thing with Slack. They didn't start by saying, we will create a discussion system. I discovered that Slack plan was at the start to build a video game. I don't think the video game has ever come out, but they were frustrated with ERC channels, so they decided to create a better one, and Slack become the super tool that many of us use in this room. And same thing, they have a respect for the way you want to work in a team. I've made some requests to them in terms of to ask them why some features are not there, like personal statistic. And they said, yeah, because we don't want that you track employee one by one. We want that you track the wealth of your team and how your team is working together. So the cause is always very well embedded in the product. And so with the personal cause, what we learn is the superhero has strong cause linked usually to a personal story. And outside the mission, the superhero can just be a normal human and he can chill out. And they don't act randomly. They always focus on one cause. And that's very important. So, Martin, I'll let you present the act, don't talk.
I think the introduction of the cause was already a good start to go further a bit into the actions, because if you just think of a superhero, they don't tell that they are great. They show that they are great. And there's a quote from Batman, and as we already have heard, Olivier is a great fan from Batman, so I let him read the quote.
Thank you very much, Martin. It's not who I am in Denise, but what I do that defines me.
So it's really the part, I show that I have superpower and I use it for the good. That's the idea of this sentence, and also the idea how brands can behave as superhero brands. I come back again to this quote from Deutsche Bank. Wir wollen die führende kundenorientierte globale Universalbank sein. Who likes it? It's too much. So it's too strong. It's something you can't perform like this. If you would like to be this, it's supernatural. But if you only talk the talk, you don't walk it. And superhero brands walk and they don't talk. So that's the difference. We brought you 2 examples to show how brands can act. There's Markor. It's a Pakistani shoe brand. Actually not Pakistani, it's Pakistani and the US who work together. And what they discovered, there were 2 entrepreneurs in Pakistan who discovered that luxury brands used Pakistani manufacturing in manufacturing shoes to create luxury shoes, sell it at a high price, but don't pay the workers well. So these entrepreneurs thought, why don't we keep all the good stuff in our country, also the money? So they created a Kickstarter project, and within 48 hours, the project was launched and backed. And the cool thing is, they didn't talk about their values. They acted. And the founders, the CEO, took the shoes and visited the backers all over the world and brought the shoes themselves. It's really something you are valued in my clients. So, but as you can see,
the shoe works. This works really well because look at the shoe he's wearing. Actually,
So it's actually this shoe.
one.
And it's really the service that I got when I ordered these shoes, and also when I stepped in the first time, it was the best feeling ever. So go on this website and try to find a pair of your shoes. You can give all the sizes that you wear otherwise, and they will find the right size. So they have really a good website on how they do this. Another one is Tesla. Tesla is always a good example, right? But actually Tesla is a good example for cars. But it's also a good example for other services or other products. For example, what he found is, we know about the blackouts in California. If energy consumption is at its highest, so they just break it down. And Tesla found out that they could set up a power plant to store electricity for peak hours. So Tesla didn't talk, yes, we could do something. They acted and they did. They created this energy storage power plant and can suit California in this problematic issue. And so Tesla is a good example on how you can act and at the same time get better as a company. Because it was the first time that they did such thing, and they learned by innovating, by prototyping, and they made themselves better by an opportunity. So act, don't talk.
So we had a bit of struggle when we came across some brands because they were love marks, superhero brand, like where do we put them? They have the trait on some others. And usually you have a problem with Apple because you can take Apple, for example, about anything in marketing, and that it really doesn't help. So what we discovered is, as Martin explained, brands, superhero brands, they put a mask to execute that power, but underneath it's a human. But those brands, they are sort of supernatural all the time, and they have to put a mask to be a human. We call those brands the Clark Kent brand. Because it's like Superman is the only superhero that has to put a mask for his daily life. His normal version is Superman. And so that's the exceptional brand. They have love mark traits plus superhero brand traits.
And as we know that superheroes actually start their actions by accident. They haven't looked for something. It starts by accident. But as soon as they understood that they've got superpower and decided to execute it, it's a conscious decision. And we hope today it's your accident to discover that your brand that you work for will become a superhero brand.
And the takeaway is, there's 9 traits we've identified so far and we share 4 with you. But don't imagine you need to have all of them. We never come across any brand that had the 9 of them. And so the superpower, even the superpower traits, I don't need to explain it, I think it's quite obvious what it is not even needed. You can create a superhero brand without a superhero power. And the real example of that is Kick-Ass. Because at some point in our life, we all wanted to be superhero. And Kick-Ass has no power, nothing. Just puts on a mask to defend a cause. And that's what you can do.
So, we wish you a really good evening, good next, and it is great to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.